Hello church family, nice to see you. We're looking at John chapter 3 today, and in John 3 we meet Nicodemus. He knew he was missing something. All people have a need, no matter how smart or respected or clever they are, and Nicodemus knew he had a hole in his life and it wasn't being filled, so he went to go and see Jesus. But he snuck along at night because he didn't want other people to see him doing so. A quick aside, when Tony and I were first having children, as an academic exercise at first, we were biologists. We knew what was going on. We knew how to do this. And then we went to antenatal classes and they gave us a 3-point sermon. There are 3 P's: the passage, the passenger and the powers. Well, the passage is obviously the birth canal. The passenger is obviously the baby. And the powers, your ability to push the passenger through the passage. And if one of those things goes wrong, you've got a 4th P, a problem. Okay? Sounds fairly simple. Our daughter is pregnant at the moment, and in these COVID times she hasn't had the chance to go to antenatal classes. It's all online, and she hasn't really had a chance to meet up with other mums and talk about, does it feel like this for you, does it feel like that for you? So it's Dr. Google for her. And of course, Dr. Google is full of all the things that go wrong. You know, epidural's not working, breech births, baby swallowing meconium, placenta previa, it all just goes on and on. It all leads to birth anxiety. Well, this is what Nicodemus had, birth anxiety, okay? He had his own birth confusion. I'm going to read to you from chapter 3, sorry. So there was a man named Nicodemus who was a Pharisee and a Jewish leader. One night he went to Jesus and he said, "Rabbi, we know God has sent you. You could not work these miracles unless God is with you." And Jesus said, straight to the heart of the matter, "I tell you, you must be born again before you can see God's kingdom." Nicodemus said, "How can a grown man be born a second time?" Jesus answered, "I tell you for certain that before you can get into God's kingdom, you must not only be born by water, but by the Spirit. Humans give life to their children, yet only God's Spirit can change you into a child of God. Don't be surprised when I tell you you must be born from above. Only God's Spirit gives new life. The Spirit is like the wind that blows wherever it wants to. You can hear the wind, but you don't know where it comes from or where it's going." "How can this be?" Nicodemus asked. Jesus replied, "How can you be a teacher of Israel and not know these things? I tell you for certain, we know what we're talking about because we've seen it for ourselves, but none of you will accept what we say." Nicodemus was so confused. "I tell you," Jesus said, "unless one is born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God." Poor old Nicodemus. He was a good, God-fearing Jew. He was a Pharisee. He followed the law. He thought his place in God's kingdom was settled. He's a son of Abraham and he follows the law. This is very disturbing stuff, you know. Jesus says nothing can save you unless you have a second birth. Well, if you think about babies, they don't actually earn being born, but unless they're born, they can't live either. You know, you have to be born. What does this mean? Born again is one of those phrases that's been ripped off and cheapened by popular culture. You know, he's going to be born again. It's really lost the meaning that it had. What it really means is to be born from above. Nicodemus was stuck thinking of the physical. How can a man be born again? There's no way. And Jesus is talking in the supernatural. He's talking about the part of you that can't be buried, the essence of you. It takes faith, he said. And that is how we are saved, through faith and belief and trust in his Son. Nicodemus needed to be born again, and so do we.